Hey kids, got to know Joe Hobbies here in Spring, Texas. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm personally in the middle of remodeling my home, fixing plumbing that is part of the remodel, but over my desired project list of what I wanted to do. Some stuff I ran into, but just went out and made a purchase, and I ran into this little plane, and this is a common problem, and I said, man, I ought to make a video on this because I've done this little repair a couple of times. This particular one here is a Ascent, and this is those little warm liner gliders, hot liner gliders, stuff like that. This is a common problem right here with the tail, because you have a mechanical bond. Mechanical is when you have material holding each other, and then you got a chemical bond. The problem is with most of these setups is a lot of this is really counting on mechanical bond more than a chemical bond instead of a mechanical. When I say that, that means you see that little guy there, that little tab, that's all they're really relying on. The rest of it is just to keep this thing in line and to support the front as well. So what happens is, it's inevitable as soon as you start coming out of a car door, or you bump it with your elbow or whatever, the chemical bond that you have right here along the top of the tail boom, if you will crack, because the glues are normally glues that dry hard, like a CA and or a two-part epoxy. You really have to use two-part epoxy because you need something that's going to really grab and really hold. So what I've done is this was just kind of kicked to the side. You push it up straight, what does it do? It drifts back down to the side, right? And all this is just a split in the end of this little fiberglass or carbon fiber rod. And the other thing is that you're sharing space with your push rod for your control surfaces back here. And let me see, yeah, this has got two of them in there. So you got to be extremely careful about where you put these push rods. Now, what we're going to... I've got somebody coming in the shop. What we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to cut a piece of this here off, and I'm going to form and cut this so we're not having wires or cables coming up here, but this is going to increase our mechanical bond, and so we're going to go back to chemical and mechanical, but we're going to have a little bit more support with this particular item here. So you want to find something that's a lot larger, not a lot larger, but you can kind of get in relation. I think that's probably about twice the size in diameter. You want it to be larger in diameter, because what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to, well, let's just make it and see. So we're going to cut this real quick. And be sure and wear something to protect your lungs. You only get two of them. When you're my age, it doesn't matter. I'm about dead anyway. I could have probably put a mark on this, cut this straighter. And this stuff here, you just want to cut it real slow. There's no reason to get into a big hurry with it. So I'm just wanting something that's long enough to slide up here and catch this on both sides. Right now I'm going to knock this out. I'll be right with you, brother. Let's see here. Okay. Now on the bottom we're going to cut all the way through it. This thing here, when it binds up, it shuts down. And that's okay. Okay, so we've got to slide all the way through it like that. We don't want to cut too far, but we want to cut far enough so we can go over the top of this. Okay, see what we got there? Just a nice little C-shaped, and see how that fits right over there? And that's what we're wanting. Now, obviously, we don't want to cut this slot that's going to go around this too far back, because we want it to stay intact, because that's where we're going to get our support from. So at this point here, you want to get that centered. And you look here on the bottom, see how I've got that about right there. And with a marker, I'm going to take and make a little mark. And we want to cut it out to where it's just barely wide enough to go around our vertical stab. See what we got here? Now, I'll take this, I can put it over here and go around this here, and I can adjust this up and down to where when I put my glues in, because at the end of the day, I want these to come up over the top of this. So I'm going to trim this back just a tad. See the little notches we got there? See how that fits? That's just about the right height, just a little deeper. I'm going to get a couple of things together, and we'll be right back, and we'll finish this little project. 4 hours. So, and look, this is just one way to do this. I've done it a bunch of different ways. I'm still experimenting with different ways. One way I've done it in the past is taking 2 little small pieces of brass and scuffed up both sides, epoxied those to each other, and I kind of pre-shaped it to where it kind of form-fitted around there, and then ran just a really super small little nut bolt through there to kind of squeeze them together. And all you're really trying to do is just trying to extend this rigidity of this here up a little higher, so you got something to keep it from doing that. A lot of times, like on the old trainers, they'd put some tri-stock on both sides just to give just a little bit. And you know, that's something that you could do here. But the thing is that this here, these vertical stabs are usually just so dadgum thin. And my other problem I've got with this little guy here is I've got a bad servo. So it would probably behoove me this little servo's locked up. Really didn't want to lose this little screw. I might need it later. Can't tell you how many servos I've got sitting around here that don't have servo arms or servo screws in them. But now, because we want to make sure that these control rods don't get glued either, which is possible, with what you're doing here. So off camera, I took the liberty of cutting this back with a razor blade and getting that covering off of there, so we'll have something to work with, to stick to, instead of just the covering. And the part that I cut out of here, I'll cut those little pieces here so I can stack those for spacers if I need them, and I think I'm going to. So this here will go here. And like I said, this isn't the prettiest way to do it, but it's a way to do it, and it's aerodynamic. It's not like big wires and stuff, up here. So let me get this junk open. Makeshift lid. I'm the world's best at losing lids. Now this is a very scientific thing, mixing this epoxy, this two-part epoxy. This is a 50-60 mixture. I usually do it by weight instead of volume. That weighs about 100 grams, and let's see here. Well, we're going to need twice that. And look at this stuff. Look how nasty this stuff is. This stuff's so old. I wouldn't use this on an airplane. I was really worried about. Let's see here. We had a couple of batches of this stuff years ago. It just wouldn't harden. Didn't seem like it wanted to. After like 2 days, it was still tacky and gooey. And we called these people. It was this company, this manufacturer. I think we called Bob's, but I think we went a step further, and maybe it wasn't that company. It might have been one of the other ones, but may have been BSI. But they said you need to stir this stuff for half the amount of time the dry time is. So if you got a 30-minute, you should stir it for 15. I said, man, get out of here. I think they were just trying to really drive home that you really got to stir this stuff real well, which that I get. I can't even shake paint for 5 minutes. I got an apparatus where I hook it up to my Sawzall and shake the hell out of it. The longer the cure time, the stronger the hold is, I'm also told. Let me get piece of paper here in case I decide to drip. There's just not a lot of area. See what happens? I didn't put my paper in place. Got her. So, And see, I'm afraid to put anything down in here because of the control rods. Put just a little bit there. Just on that bottom edge in case it decides to hold something on accident. This carbon fiber doesn't weigh anything. Now my little spacers there, see, I can kind of slide them around where I need to. Put a little in there. Spoon a little bit in there. That's probably going to be about it for that. Now all we got to do is make sure that this thing, when it dries square. There we go. Pretty square. It doesn't take a whole bunch of pressure here. You know, you don't have to tape all around it and all that. Just enough just to kind of hold it in place for you to look down let's see here. Let's say that right there is on the 90. So we will let this dry, and I actually put this on my little gram scale. I forget what the number was, but it was almost nothing in weight. So we really shouldn't change our CG or anything like that. And what that's done is it's giving me a large surface area here to glue to. I was able to come up on this here about 1/8 of an inch, and now I'm re-glued in the back. I'm re-glued in the front, and we'll see how it holds up. Like I said, the only other way that you can really get after and do these is if you want to put something in here, little finite wire, or some type of a little L bracket, and shape it to fit around that fuse. And look here, if you know a way that works real good for you with these things, that's great. But putting tail feathers on these little tail booms or fuselage booms has always been a pain in the butt, because you just don't have a lot of surface area to glue to. And by doing this, it just gives us a little bit more surface area for us to work with. And it doesn't look too terrible bad. I could spray paint that, tape it off, spray paint that white. You'd never know it was there, So I hope this gets your creative juices flowing. That's what it's all about. That's just another way to fix a broken airplane, and Lord knows we probably have a few of those. Okay, we're back. Got to know Joe Hobbies. Another day. End of a second day. And see, I've been out pressure washing and weed eating, bleed eating, and our glue has dried. It has had ample amount of time to dry. So let's move this single-sided sticky tape, painter's tape. Let's see here. Come on, get up there. You guys ever meet my grandfather? This is what he would have done. Of course, he'd have done it better because he'd have been using 2 hands. Look at that. Huh? That's what he'd have done right there. Boy, that tape is plenty good. Shouldn't be throwing stuff away. I reckon he'd have probably put toilet paper back on a roll if he'd get away with it. That was just gross. But that's the way them guys back in the Depression, the way they thought, man. Because they have done without. They'd tighten their belt and eat the leather that they had hanging over extra. I'm not going to say that never happened, but probably. Okay, I'm tired. I want to get done with this stuff. Jumper, how you doing today? Huh? What do you think about this? You ain't having it? Okay, so now look at that, man. We're all square. We're pretty damn square. Look how square that is. Ooh-wee. And wiggle, wiggle. Put some pressure. Man, that thing is rigid as it can be. Let's see, our epoxy dried good. Now, I'm going to give you a close-up of what we did here. Now, like I said, there's a couple of different ways that we could have gone about this. This is just something I experimented with once or twice, and it worked. You could take some flat brass, shape it over a piece of dowel rod to get your little curve, and shape it to where it would come up to about right here down, and wrap around to about right there, cut it off, and just fit everything. And you put one on each side. You glue them at the base, put one little bitty micro nut and bolt there, just long enough to where that nut just gets through the screw just barely gets through the nut. So it's very clean, and it's pretty light, if you only use your brass strap, about like that. Aluminum can be used, thin aluminum strap, or flat stock. But I had a little piece of carbon tube, so that's what we used. You use what you got. That's the way I do it anyway. So if you notice there in the front, those pieces of shims that we cut off the bottom, those pieces of shim, I use that to fill that stuff up there in the front. And the only reason I really had to do that is because my piece of tubing was, that much larger than, our tail boom here. So now it's got, I don't know, what is that, a little bit of maybe a 1/16 of an inch. You don't need much to come up there to give you that added rigidity. And you see, it's not giving at all. And it feels just rock solid. So this little guy here is ready for the air. All we got to do is drop a new servo, a little micro servo in there, and I think we're gonna put a better connector and look up the electronics. I'm thinking that this is a little Castle Creations ESC. They're famous for having ESCs that don't have any information on them whatsoever. That looks like Castle stuff there. So, when you have no markings like that to go by, you really don't know what kind of battery you can throw at it. The motor, well, we can look up that. I think this one here is good. I think you can actually run a 4 on that. I think they only listed it as a 3, but motors are fine. You can put as much voltage to them really as long as you don't overheat them. The caveats here, this is the thing that'll give on you, because the electronics, same thing here. You can run as much power you want to run through them, but when they start getting hot, they're going to fail. Problem is, it's hard to test that, how far you can push it without blowing stuff up. So we're probably going to take this thing here out. Little fry sky. We'll probably push this over to a Spectrum and probably get this to somebody that can use it. The little Ascent and the little tail repair. Hope this helps. I don't know. It's just, one of those little how-to things. And I'm tired, so I'm rambling. So the best thing to do is just cut this off now. Got No Joe Hobby, Spring, Texas. Y'all come back now, you hear?
I just got a new coat still.
Okay.
Got a little brand new feel. Not so fast, switchblade, cut your car wheel. I'm on top, self-made, I'm the real deal, yeah. Switchblade, 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 switchblade. I'ma take the rape, no cap. Trying to not get clapped. I'm tapped in, bulletproof vest, no strap. Don't test me, cut through quick, that's fast, yeah. Switchblade.